Hey Joe, it's Fran. So this week I've been thinking about, as nerds are wont to do, superpowers. So often the question is asked, if you had a superpower, what superpower would you want? The main contenders tend to be the big names, like invisibility, or flight, or telepathy, or time travel. And those are all really cool. However, when I daydream about superpowers, they tend to be practical ones that I've made up in my head. The superpower that I daydream about the most, I like to think of as the zapping superpower. Now, here are the rules of my superpower. The person who would have this superpower would have the ability to take any electronic device and basically turn it into one of those zapping dog collars. Now, the main reason that I fantasize about being able to zap people with electronics is I sit in things like band, orchestra, choir, theater rehearsals, class, and I see people misbehaving with their cell phones. And what I mean by misbehaving is that they're sitting here with their music open, like this. And they look like they're being really good. They're studying their music, they're paying attention to what's going on. But in reality, what they're doing? This. They're actually surfing Tumblr, or texting their boyfriend, or seeing what time dinner's open and what the menu is. And this annoys me greatly, to no end. I mean, you're in a music ensemble for a reason, right? You want to sing or you want to play. You should be learning the music, not surfing the internet. And so when I see anyone doing this, I come up with this beautiful fantasy where I have a superpower, where I can make said cell phone zap the person. See, the thing about the superpower is no one would know that it was you, but they would think it was coming from their phone. And maybe like Pavlov's dog, the ones with the bells where they ring and then they salivate. Maybe like Pavlov's dog, they would learn that it's not right to use your cell phone when you should be paying attention. The other superpower that I created in my head also came out of a funky, annoyed, nervous, murmur place. Didn't you hate it when you were little and you my stomach hurts and no one would believe you? Well, my friends, I thought of a superpower that when you touch somebody, you could relay what you were actually feeling. I like to think of this superpower as the power of empathy. The thing about this superpower wouldn't mostly be about emotions. It'd actually be about physical pain. And the reason this would be helpful is like when you go to the doctor and the doctor asks you, okay, so you're in pain. You're like, yes. And they're like, where does it hurt? And you're like, my knee. And they're like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much pain are you feeling in your knee? And you could be like, well, it's probably about a 6. And that's not a lot of pain. But if you had the superpower, you could touch the doctor on the arm, and you could think about it, and you could relay how much pain you are feeling. As in, the doctor would suddenly hurt in his own knee. And then the doctor could sit there and go, well, that's a lot of pain. You probably broke something. I really, really, really wanted this superpower back when I was little, because the problem was if you wanted to stay home because you weren't feeling well, Mom would cause a little bit of a guilt trip. She'd sit there and be like, how sick do you really feel? And you're like, well, I'm feeling pretty sick. My insides, feel like they're going to come out my mouth. And then she's like, well, only you know how sick you feel and if you should stay home or if you shouldn't. And I have a problem with guilt. I latch on to guilt. I feel guilt all the time for things that I really shouldn't feel guilt about. And so I would sit there and be like, well, could I go to school? I'm feeling kind of ill, but could I go to school when 2 minutes ago I was absolutely certain I was going to puke my intestines out? And so I wished I had a way of just touching my mother and being like, this is how I feel. Can I stay home from school today? It has occurred to me that both of these superpowers are kind of weirdly involved with pain. I mean, in one of them, I'm zapping people because they're misbehaving, and in the other one, I'm allowing people to feel the pain that I'm feeling. But I think that's part of the appeal and part of the problem of superpowers. is that they allow us to do things that we couldn't or shouldn't do in society. Take invisibility, for example. In invisibility, you can use your superpower to spy on people getting dressed in the morning. And don't tell me you haven't thought about being invisible and watching somebody get naked. Or telepathy. Telepathy is a really scary power, and there's plenty of examples in pop culture of telepathy, backfiring on people as they heard what people really thought of them, the really gross thoughts, the really sad thoughts, the really embarrassing thoughts. And then a lot of the time, superpowers are used for purely violent reasons. I mean, part of the joy of watching a superhero film is watch someone get to beat up a bad guy. And they do a good job in modern day, especially, of making sure that the bad guy is seen as a really bad guy. They murder, they're a mass murderer, they tend to blow up cities and be destructive and really, really detrimental to society. But at the same time, the old comic books used to have Superman beating up, really hardcore beating up thieves, which is a bad thing and a crime, but not something that you should really, kill somebody for. But I guess that's part of why we have comic books, is that it allows us to daydream and fantasize, and in a non-violent, in a fairly healthy way, get out some of the instant urges or the inner urges of ourselves. So, that's my thought for the week. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope it was fairly enlightening. And I guess I'll see you on Saturday, and Kanish, chick.